Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take that pile of sources you've got and really pull out the insights that matter. Today, we're diving into some pretty recent, kind of eye-opening cybersecurity stuff, the kind of thing that might make you, double-check your network, maybe your printer, even your email. Our goal here is to unpack these critical, real-world vulnerabilities hitting everyday tech. We want you to get not just what happened, but really why it matters to you and what you actually need to know.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is how these incidents, email, printers, network gear, they seem separate, but they actually point to some really common themes in digital risk. We're going to try and connect those dots today, show you how understanding these specific cases can sharpen your sort of general awareness of where these weak spots often pop up. It's about getting that informed skepticism, right? Realizing security isn't just the big headlines.
Okay, so let's unpack the first one. Imagine getting an email, right? Looks totally legit. Looks like it's from inside your company, maybe HR, maybe IT, but it's actually a really clever phishing attack. That's exactly what researchers, Varonis Threat Labs, found could happen with a Microsoft 365 feature most people haven't even heard of. It seems Microsoft's kind of left a door open, letting attackers basically pretend to be internal. How do they pull that off?
Right, so this hinges on something called the direct send feature in M365. Now, direct send, it's not something regular users typically touch. It's really designed for internal applications or devices. Think like a network scanner needing to email a notification, or maybe an old system sending out alerts. Things that need to send mail without full user authentication. So attackers, starting around May 2025, figured out they could exploit this. They basically just guessed the domain name format for what's called the smart host and the company's email address pattern.
Hold on, smart host. Can you just quickly explain what that is?
Sure. Think of a smart host as like a designated mail relay server. It's often used for those internal devices, printers, system alerts, that need to send automated messages without setting up a full mailbox for each one. The critical point here, the real danger, was that the attackers could skip all the usual authentication. They just use a PowerShell command, send mail message to fire off these fake emails, no login, no password needed, zero authentication.
Wow, so zero authentication means these emails could just waltz past the usual security, like spam filters, even some phishing detection, because they looked internal. That's like the wolf, not just in sheep's clothing, but the sheep already having the key card to the building. How bad was this in practice? Did they see it being used?
You nailed it.
Yeah.
That's the core danger, the inherent trust people place in internal emails. You see something from inside, you're just way more likely to click or open something or give up info. And yes, Varonis Threat Labs did find this being used in the wild, as they say. Now, it's worth pointing out, these emails do still come from external IP addresses. So there are technical clues, other indicators of illegitimacy that a sharp security team could spot if they were looking.
If they knew what to look for.
Exactly. But for the average user, super deceptive. And it really highlights a key theme we see again and again. The danger of these overlooked, maybe misconfigured default features. Things meant for convenience becoming huge security holes if they aren't locked down tight.
That's a really good point. It's not always some brand new complex hack, but sometimes just finding a forgotten path through the existing setup. And speaking of forgotten things, our next story might make you look sideways at that machine humming away in the corner. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. Printers, we think they're pretty harmless, right? Annoying when they jam, maybe, and not a security risk. Turns out they can be a massive weak link. New findings impacting hundreds of models, some really critically exposed. Who even thinks about printer security?
Exactly. It's such a classic example of an overlooked attack surface. And the numbers here are, well, they're quite something. We're talking 8 new vulnerabilities found. They affect over 748 models. That's across 5 different manufacturers. But get this. A huge chunk, 689 of these, are brother printers. The research on this started about a year ago, back in May 2024, and the severity scores, the CVSS scores, they range from like 5.3, which is moderate, all the way up to a critical 9.8.
Wow, 9.8 for a printer. That's almost off the charts in the security world. Can you remind us quickly, what's a CVE? And why is 9.8 so bad?
Right. So CVE stands for Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures. It's basically just a unique ID number for a specific security flaw. Helps everyone track it. So CVE 2024-51978 is the ID for this particular printer issue. And yeah, 9.8 on the CVSS scale, that's critical. It usually means the vulnerability is easy to exploit remotely, probably needs no authentication from the attacker, and can lead to, full system control or major data theft. It's about as serious as it gets.
Okay, so what does this specific one, CVE 2024-51978, actually let an attacker do? What makes it a 9.8?
This one, the 9.8, is an authentication bypass vulnerability. Basically, it lets a remote attacker, someone with no credentials, figure out the printer's default administrator password. And here's the kicker, the really worrying part. The default password isn't random. The way it's generated during manufacturing involves transforming the printer's unique serial number into the password.
Wait, using the serial number?
Yeah. So if an attacker can find the serial number, maybe it's physically on the printer, maybe it's in some asset list, they can potentially calculate the default admin password and just log in. Full admin access.
So why should you, listening right now, care about someone hacking a printer? Well, just think about what goes through it. Financial reports, patient records, confidential company plans, an attacker with admin rights. That sounds catastrophic. They could turn your printer into a spy, couldn't they? It's not just about wasting paper anymore.
Not at all. With admin access, an attacker could totally reconfigure the printer. Or worse, install new software on it. Software that just quietly sends copies of everything printed straight to them. Imagine that. Your printer just sitting there, seemingly working fine, but secretly leaking every sensitive document, payroll, contracts, designs to an attacker. It completely blows confidentiality out of the water.
Okay, so how do we fix this? Are there patches?
Well, that's where it gets complicated. For 7 of the vulnerabilities, yes, there are firmware updates available. You should definitely apply those. But for the big one, the 9.8 CVSS CVE, the one using the serial number, that requires a complete change to the manufacturing process.
A change to the manufacturing process?
Yeah.
That sounds like a huge deal. Does that mean existing printers, the ones already out there, can't actually be fully fixed for this specific flaw?
That's pretty much it. Brother has said it cannot be fully remediated in firmware, so only brand new printers made with the updated process will be inherently secure against this specific CVE. For all the older models out there, Brother has issued a workaround, which usually means, change the default admin password immediately, don't rely on the factory default.
But a workaround isn't a real fix.
Exactly. It puts the burden on the user or the IT admin to take action. And it really highlights our second big theme here. The attack surface we ignore. The IoT devices, the overlooked physical things on our networks. We focus so much on servers, workstations, firewalls. But what about the coffee machine, the smart TV, that old printer? They're all potential doors.
That's a massive takeaway, expanding our idea of what needs security beyond just the computers. Okay, let's shift gears one more time. This next one might ring a bell for some folks, but it's got a new twist. Remember the original Citrix Bleed vulnerability back in 2023? Allowed MFA bypass, session hijacking?
Oh yeah, that caused quite a stir.
Well, it looks like a similar threat, maybe a sequel, has popped up, affecting the same popular Citrix products. Feels a bit like deja vu, doesn't it?
It definitely has that, uh-oh, here we go again feeling. You're right, there's a new set of vulnerabilities hitting the Citrix NetScaler Gateway and NetScaler ADC products. And yes, one of them is already being called Citrix Bleed 2. Citrix announced them publicly on June 17, 2025. The specific IDs are CVE 2025-5349 and CVE 2025-5777.
Okay, and the one they're calling Citrix Bleed 2, that's CVE 2025-5777. What's the danger there? How does it work? You mentioned out-of-bounds memory reads. Can you break that down a bit?
Right, CVE 2025-5777 is the one getting the most attention. It's serious because it uses these out-of-bounds memory reads to steal session tokens and other authentication data. Think of out-of-bounds reads like, imagine a program is supposed to read data only from its assigned spot in memory, like its own designated file cabinet drawer. An out-of-bounds read is like it reaching into the next drawer over, one it shouldn't have access to. Attackers exploit this to peek at sensitive stuff stored in memory nearby, like those session tokens that prove a user is logged in.
Got it. So they grab those tokens.
Exactly. And grabbing those tokens lets them bypass multi-factor authentication and basically hijack an active user session, which, as you said, sounds very, very similar to the original Citrix Bleed, CVE 2023-4966. The end result is an attacker potentially impersonating a legitimate authenticated user.
Okay, now here's something interesting, maybe even a bit concerning. Citrix, in their official blog post, said these vulnerabilities have not been seen exploited in the wild. But researchers at Request, they disagree. They're saying with medium confidence that attackers are actively using this, CVE 2025-5777, to get initial access into networks. That's quite a difference in assessment, isn't it?
It's a huge difference, and frankly, it's a bit of a red flag. It highlights a real challenge in cybersecurity, getting timely, accurate threat intelligence. When the vendor says one thing and a respected research firm says another, it puts companies in a tough spot. Who do you believe? How quickly do you need to patch? It creates confusion and can definitely slow down response.
Yeah, that lack of clarity is worrying.
And to add to the confusion, Citrix has apparently been tweaking the description for the CVE over time. The original description for 5777 specifically mentioned the NetScaler Management Interface. But later, they changed it to be more general, just talking about NetScaler products. These kinds of changes, even if well-intentioned, can make it harder for security teams to know exactly what to focus on.
So with this conflicting info, the changing descriptions and reports of active exploitation, what's the bottom line for organizations using these Citrix products? Especially those maybe running older end-of-life versions. That sounds like more than just a simple patch.
The bottom line is urgency. Really, extreme urgency. There are several versions of ADC and NetScaler affected. And yeah, some are end of life, meaning they don't get security updates from Citrix anymore. For those running affected, supported versions, the advice is clear. Update your Citrix instances ASAP. Don't wait. For those on end-of-life versions, it's a much bigger problem. There is no patch. It means they need a full upgrade or migration project, like yesterday. Running EOL software with known critical flaws is just incredibly risky, and this whole situation really underlines our third theme, the ongoing headache of managing legacy systems and how absolutely critical, clear, consistent vendor communication is. It's not just about releasing a fix, it's about being upfront and unambiguous about the real-time threat.
Right. So bringing it all together then, we've got the sneaky email bypass, printers leaking secrets, and a returning network threat. What does it all mean for you listening? It really shows just how, I guess, diverse and pervasive these vulnerabilities can be. It's clearly not just about the big front door anymore, is it?
Not at all. If you connect the dots, these stories show that attackers are hitting the edges, the overlooked bits, an obscure email setting, an old printer, a system past its support date. These seemingly minor components, they can become major security holes. It's like attackers are probing the forgotten edges of our digital world, the periphery, the less obvious spots, even the confusion around patching sometimes. And that really raises a key question for everyone. Are you regularly looking at every part of your digital setup for weaknesses? Not just the obvious stuff. True security means looking beyond the main gates.
Yeah, that's the crucial takeaway, I think. Staying informed isn't just about knowing which patch to apply. It's about fostering this mindset, this proactive curiosity. Thinking about your own world, personal or professional. What other everyday devices, what other overlooked software features might be silently holding a back door open right now? Something to really think about. Okay, that wraps up another deep dive. We hope digging into these stories gave you some valuable insights, maybe a few aha moments about where risks can hide in plain sight. Keep those curious minds working. We'll be back soon to unpack another stack of sources for you. Until then, keep asking questions, stay informed.